Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from YourBlackWorld.net, and many of you know about the legacy of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm in Tulsa right now for a fatherhood panel with Etan Thomas and DeMario Solomon Simmons and some others that care about fatherhood in the Black community. And as I was browsing around the Culture Center in Greenwood, which is the area of that Black Wall Street once existed, I ran into an extraordinary brother by the name of Dr. Anthony L. Marshall. Dr. Marshall is in the Department of Social Studies with Tulsa Public Schools at Booker T. Washington High School, which is an historic high school. And people have told me before that Dr. Marshall was one of the great experts on Black Wall Street, where it came from, how it operated, what happened to it. And he told me some extraordinary things last night, and I just felt that other people need to hear this because the Black Wall Street, as you know, is an important part of Black history. And if you followed what I did this week with Minister Farrakhan in Chicago, many of the principles that we talked about were principles that were embodied in the existence of Black Wall Street. Now, I have Dr. Marshall on the line. How are you doing today, my brother?
Good morning, Boyce. I am doing fantastic. As you said, I too am getting ready for the panel discussion on fatherhood this morning. Thank you very much for having me.
You know, the pleasure is all mine, my friend. And I've done enough of the talking. I would like for you to, if you can, start from the beginning. First of all, let me ask you this. What was Black Wall Street? And then we can go back to where it came from and all that stuff. Tell people what Black Wall Street was for those who don't know.
First of all, you have to understand the term Black Wall Street actually came from Booker T. Washington when he was making a visit here to the state of Oklahoma, and he passed through the city of Tulsa. And he saw an enclave of African-American economic success. He saw an area of the city of Tulsa, which was actually really considered two cities, in which African Americans were thriving. They had their own bus lines, they had their own hotels, grocery stores, businesses, lawyers' offices, pharmacies, you name it, they had it right in their own community. And from that observation, Booker T. Washington made the comment, wow, this is Wall Street. So that's where the term actually came from. But you have to understand again, the Black Wall Street, as we commonly call the Greenwood area of North Tulsa, was a very busy and active, economically successful area that was primarily occupied by more than 10,000 African Americans in the early 1900s. That's Black Wall Street.
Okay. So how did Black Wall Street come into existence? Did somebody just wake up one day and say, I want to create Black Wall Street? I mean, how did Black Wall Street come to be?
It's an interesting story. What a lot of people do not know is that along the Trail of Tears, when the Choctaw, the Cherokees came to Indian territory, they brought with them their slaves. And those slaves, according to the Reconstruction Treaties of 1877, were released by the federal government from the bondage of the Indians. And another requirement of the Reconstruction Treaties, in addition to freeing their slaves, was to provide their slaves with land. And so many of the slaves then came together, actually to protect, former slaves at this point, came together to protect themselves and began building little small communities throughout the state of Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, in the late 1800s, Oklahoma had more all-black towns than any other state in the Union. And one of those areas sprang up along the Arkansas River. And that's basically when Tulsa incorporated, we became a part of the city of Tulsa. So that's how we got started in Greenwood. But interestingly enough, because of segregation, our community, you have to understand again, Tulsa, while being one city, was really two cities. Our community, because of segregation, became very self-sufficient. As I mentioned to you, we had our own bus line, which ran down Greenwood, understanding that Greenwood was the main thoroughfare for this whole community, which was bounded primarily on the south side by Archer Street and on the north by Pine. So again, Greenwood was the focal point. And along Greenwood, you had more than 100 black businesses, which consisted of 2 theaters, a hotel, banks, a bus line, pharmacy, grocery stores, haberdasheries, all in that same community. And, of course, the focal point of any community of African-American descent during that time was our black churches.
So
that's how we...
I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. Go ahead.
I was about to say, and so that's how we began to grow and make all. Actually, it was because of segregation.
So you're saying that because we couldn't go and spend our money with white folks, and we couldn't go and just get jobs for big corporations or whatever it was in existence, we found a way to become self-sufficient. We were able in this community to make our own money and recirculate our own money and create prosperity unlike anything seen throughout the country. Is that correct?
Exactly. You have to understand, many African Americans worked as maids, cooks, butlers, chauffeurs in South Tulsa, but because they could not spend their money in South Tulsa, they brought their dollars, their paychecks back to North Tulsa. It said, and our dollar began to circulate within our community. And, of course, when your dollar circulates within your community grows. And that's one of the reasons why it became such a vibrant place, particularly economically.
Wow. So let me ask you this. What happened to Black Wall Street? Why does it not still exist today?
Well, first of all, you have to understand the devastation that took place June of 1921. While it's typically called the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot, I prefer to refer to it as the 1921 Race Holocaust, because in that, with the fire bombings and the violence that took place, you had a whole culture of people basically destroyed. And so, and let me just make one thing clear, Dr. Watkins. Many people talk about the alleged incident in which Dick Rowland allegedly assaulted Sarah Page in an elevator. While that may have had something to do with it, that was simply maybe the spark. There had been a lot of jealousy of the prosperity of the African Americans in the Greenwood area. And so that one incident basically fueled the fire for a group of vigilantes to attack the North Tulsa community. And when Greenwood was burned, and in the aftermath of the 1921 Race Holocaust, virtually every business was destroyed. More than 1,000 businesses and homes were destroyed in basically a 24-hour period. African Americans were herded to internment camps. They marched them to Mohawk Park and to the Tulsa Fairgrounds, where they held them until, if you worked for a white person, he could come and give you a pass, and you had to carry your pass with you while you went to work and then come back. So after the incident, we were not allowed to rebuild initially because the city of Tulsa passed an ordinance that said all construction after this had to be done by brick. And, of course, the brick company refused to sell bricks to the African-American community. But with the fervent legal mind of attorney B.C. Franklin, who had his business destroyed, and by the way, B.C. Franklin was the father of the great historian Dr. John Hope Franklin, he appealed the city ordinance to the Oklahoma State Supreme Court and had that ordinance overturned. And the African-American community was able to begin rebuilding. As a matter of fact, maybe not to the extent that it was prior to 1921, we did rebuild the Greenwood area. And once again, because of segregation, became a very vibrant community. However, with urban renewal and moving many of the black businesses and homes out of the community in the mid-1960s, Greenwood once again died.
So let me make sure I got this right. You said they had internment camps, internment camps. What's the deal with the internment camps? I mean, what was the basis for incarcerating the people of their community?
Very much like the Japanese were interned right after Pearl Harbor in 1941 because of concern that perhaps blacks would rise up and fight again. They actually placed them in internment camps. It was said it was for our own safety that they placed them in the internment camps. But yes, you were literally required to remain in those camps, and they had the National Guard surrounding the camps so that African Americans could not